Untold Stories.
Well, welcome back to Untold Stories with my papa right here, Tafiq Kadris, also known as Fig to other people in this world. Hey, Daddy, what's going on with you today?
Oh,
Welcome back.
Great. Everything and nothing.
So, where did we leave off last time? We left off talking about your childhood. We got into a little bit about family life, but I want to revisit some things back to your teenage years, your years when you started becoming a man, and what was like your first job, and how did you help your family out? Because that's, in our community, men, young boys, they get jobs young and also help support their family and provide however they can, whether it's a few dollars here to their mom or bringing groceries in or making sure that they eat. That's what happens in our community. So what was your first job? Not job on the books, but how did you make money?
Okay, as far as I go back, the first time I started making money, I became a paper boy. I would have to.
You were a paper boy, like old style paper boys, like drawing the paper?
I used to deliver papers to people's doorstep or to their home. The week I was delivered the daily paper, and on the weekend I would collect, go around and collect my money. And I also delivered Sunday papers.
Oh.
Well, I used to have to get up. This is one of my fears. When I couldn't have been no more than about 10 or 11, maybe. I would have to get up, and it was still dark outside, and I used to have to walk through the streets selling, delivering my papers before I went to school. Of course, when I did get my money, I would give my mother my money, and she would give back to me what she wanted me to have, which was enough money to have maybe 5 cents a day to go back to school. But I just didn't consider that my money. I consider that family money. So.
And how old were you?
I was 8, 9, 10. And somewhere in that, I may not be accurate, but I'm in that.
You weren't a teenager or a grown.
I hadn't become a teenager yet.
Yeah.
During the time I got a little older, and I started carrying groceries.
You and cousins
at the supermarket. My cousins, the Crawfords, they taught me a lot about hustling and making money. We used to go around with junk carts, actually.
What's that?
We used to, back in the day, you had junk yards that you could take old papers, anything. They were salvage yards, actually. And we collect all of this rags, papers, whatever we would put in the cart and take them up to the junkyard. He would weigh them and pay us, money for whatever it turned out to weigh. You may get 6 cents, 5 cents here, 6 cents there. And throughout the day, you might end up with $1.
Now, when you say $1, because people don't realize how much $1 was back then. What could you have? What could you purchase with 6 cents back then?
Well, it's hard to remember, but I could tell you this. I remember my mother taking $1 and feeding the 5 of us. She would get chicken wings, rice. We had rice and gravy and some vegetable, and we would have a balanced meal off for $1.
Wow, $1.
You break that down. Part of my hustling was stealing. I learned how to steal. So.
Well, you had to steal. Well, not had to.
Well, I mean, that was just part of the culture. The soda man might come in the neighborhood to deliver sodas to the stores, and we would steal a crate of sodas or something like that, or whatever. Another way we hustled, they would give you 2 cent for the small soda bottles and 5 cents for the quart soda bottle. 16 ounce was 2 cents. We would hustle beer bottles. We would get 5 cents for a beer bottle. Well, I had a wagon and I would fill my wagon up with bottles and stuff, and I would take them and trade them in and get money that way.
Yeah.
I would wash people's windows. I would go to store for people. I would do anything to make $1.
Because it's possible. If you go out there and do something, you can make money.
All you have to do is see a need, see what they want and what they need, and provide that for them. You know, exactly. You provide it. If a person needed a certain service, we weren't too proud to go out and wash floors or do whatever we needed to do to make $1.
It's a job. And
it was a job.
People who,
and every day we went out to have fun and make money.
Yeah. But people who collect trash and people who are janitors make so much money. They make a good living. So it's not something to look down on and people say, oh, it's your own money. Y'all made your own money. Nobody dictated how much you were going to make because you were able to make as much as you want for whatever you did.
Well, I mean, there wasn't but so much money to be made. Yeah. The harder you hustle, the more money you make, the things that you were willing to do to make money.
Yep.
Like I said, I learned early how to steal a little bit. We would, one of the things that I did that my crew did.
He had a crew. This crew, what did y'all have, like a social club? What was it?
Well, we had
they were sophisticated.
Going back to when I was a child hustling, birds of a feather, so if it was the people in the neighborhood that was hustling, you would group up with them, and if you would go stealing, you would group up and go stealing together. We would sneak on the subway. We could actually, we were so small, we could sneak through the bars and go to the subway and go. But when we stole, we went into other people's neighborhood and stole.
You didn't steal from your own neighborhood.
We never.
Hold on, just 1 second, Dad. Here we go. So back to what you were saying.
So we would go to different neighborhoods and steal. That's why I got used to traveling. I would go anywhere, I mean, if I just got bored, I would hop on a trolley and ride from one end of the trolley, one to the other, and know what was around the corner, what was the street and what was going on in South Philly, what was going on uptown, what was going on downtown, what was going on across town. And the people that I hung out with were the same as I was, so I would either go by myself or I would go with them. So I always grew up exploring, to me was an exploration.
And that's very important because even now, how Philadelphia is made up of just our neighborhoods are 4-block radius. So every 4 blocks you have another neighborhood, which is not a huge radius. And some people never leave that 4-block radius.
Yeah, I know a guy, a young fella, when I had my barbershop, they had some type of job fair or whatever, and he had to go downtown. Now, downtown was somewhere I always said, since I remember, I knew how to go to
you can walk downtown,
When you go downtown, we used to go down there to shine shoes. That was another way we hustled. We would make our shoe shine boxes and go downtown and shine shoes, shine the rich folks' shoes. And so I told this young man, I said, they're hiring down at you have to go down to 11th and Market and fill out an application or whatever. He said, where is 11th Market? Now, I come to find out this young man never left a 4-block radius in his life, and he was about 17 years old.
That's like when I used to go to New York and people would be like, oh my gosh, what's New York like? And I was like, it's just like Philadelphia. It's only 2 hours away. You could possibly walk to New York and get there in a day, and it's still the same thing. because people really stay. Well, it's reasons why people stay in the neighborhoods. One is out of fear, sometimes safety as well, because certain neighborhoods you just couldn't go into. And then like it was times where, like you said, it was gang warring. And then it was also certain neighborhoods that we weren't allowed in after certain times. But now, like someone in my generation, it is very sad to say that some people still, if you live on 69th Street up there, you don't go to the gallery, you don't go past South Street, you don't go anywhere but stay in 69th Street. If you're in North Philly, you only know North Philly. You will never venture out to West Philly or South Philly or the Northeast. It's a rarity. Well, now you have rarity because I'm glad that people do go places now, but it's still so many people who are within their 4-block radius.
Yeah, that's not only our race of people. Since I've traveled and I've been around different places and met different people, that there are people all over the world who just stays in one particular place. And all they know about other people is what they see on TV.
Yeah, and that's very sad.
And that is a very sad thing, because if you travel around and you explore life and people and not afraid to go different places, you find out that we're all alike. You know, we all want the same thing. We want to survive and we want to live and we want to do this. You know, we want the good things for our children and all of that.
And it broadens, it opens up the person that you are, because you don't limit. Once you move out of small spaces, the sky's your limit. You don't have many restrictions on who you can be, where you can go.
You see a lot of possibilities for yourself.
Yes, possibilities. Yeah.
Yeah, and your possibilities are unlimited. I mean, sky is the limit. And
that's one thing, before you go on there, that's one thing my father showed us. We went somewhere every summer, whether we drove in a car and went and visit people. We went from north to the south and back on up. So it never was something for me and our family to not to only be in one spot. We knew we were venturing out, and that was part of our life since I was a little kid. So I appreciate that. And thank you, Dad. I appreciate you, Dad, for opening up my world, so I can open the world up even larger for your grandchildren who the little one, I said, you can go anywhere you want for your birthday. And she's like, I'm tired of getting on planes. You can just stay here. I'm like, what? But yeah, because their world is so big. They just like, let's give me simplicity. I
mean, that's a good sign in a way, because it shows at a very young age she's been places. Going somewhere, she don't have that fear. See, one thing is, I believe that a lot of us don't venture out because we have this fear. Fear is the worst motivator that you can have, because it'll put you in a box, and you'll stay in that box and you'll be satisfied with being in that box for fear of leaving that box, because you know what's going to happen. You don't know what's coming up next.
The unknown.
The unknown. And reality, each second is unknown. And
what do you think?
And everything can happen to you right there in that box. So what's the difference? You know,
what do you think made you venture out and be different from that? Because I know not just you, your siblings as well, and also, you know, our family is not very, we don't think very small. We think in a larger scope. So what do you think made you, did you see someone else? Did you have any mentors, male mentors, or other mentors that show you that? What was it in you that may have sparked that?
Well, like I said, it started when I was very, very young. I just have, it's something that's, first of all, that's innate in you, that you just don't settle for everyday stuff. You have to, I had something in me, I had to see something different. I believe because I get bored quick. You know, if I do the same thing over and over and over again, I'm during that time, I'm thinking of something else to do. Just my nature. However, I think curiosity is a part of everybody's nature, and I think curiosity is something that should be adventured in. If you should not be afraid of your curiosity. You know, we were taught so wrongly the way that we were taught to you know, the fears. You know, don't venture out. I mean, it was a reason because
it was a reason, safety.
Yeah, it was a reason because our parents thought that we would get lynched if you wasn't supposed to be caught cross town or whatever.
Yeah.
That, I mean, it's a reason, but that is no. But you know, that's a reason, but it's not a reason.
It shouldn't stop you,
because life is too much to explore. I mean, every day is different. No one is the same. You know, and the quality of your life, you find that you have a better quality of life. You appreciate life a lot better if you explore and you experience other things in life. And that's what I try to teach y'all, to go out, and if you have it in your mind to do it. I try to tell you, okay, even if you do something wrong.
My dad, I had professors, my dad like, go ahead and do it. And I'm like, really? He's like, can I go? Can I try it out too?
and what I would do is I would tell them the possibilities of what might happen to them. And if you're okay with that happening to you, go ahead, be my guest. You go right ahead and do it. But me as a parent, I'm going to shed light on what can happen to you if you did this and if you did that. Because if I tell you not to do it, if you want to do it, you're going to do it anyway.
And that's one thing I appreciate from you.
Not to stick your hand in that fire because it's going to burn you. You got to find out what it is to be burned.
Yeah, and I appreciate that with you. It was never a no or yes. It was like, if that's what you want to do. Now, I've been married before, and my dad was like, hey, if you want to do it, go ahead. He knew it probably wasn't going to work out, but he said, go ahead, have fun, try it. But anything that I've ever wanted to do, my dad is always like, sounds interesting, go ahead. So I appreciate that.
What does work out mean? What something working out? It did work out. It did work out because you learned something from it.
Yeah.
Made you who you are today. If you don't like who you are today, then it didn't work out. I love me. I mean, I've been through some. I'm here to tell you some stories, and I could tell you some stories. But I love who I am, and I'm glad I am where I am. You know, I'm glad who I am today. So all of the things that I went through, it turned out successfully because I learned from it.
Yep.
You go through something and you don't learn from it, then that's a failure experience. Nothing from that. So that's why, you know, and in life, there is no such thing as a perfect life anyway.
It's perfectly imperfect.
It's perfectly imperfect. The only thing that is perfect about life is imperfect.
And only you can do what you do in your life perfectly as you. Because no one else can make your mistakes as perfectly as you. Nobody can walk perfectly like you. But whenever you are trying to be like someone else or living someone else, that's when you come into imperfection.
It will not work out because you can only be you. And we as a people, we were taught not to love ourselves like who we are. We have to redefine that. We have to why would I hate myself? There is no, and I've always had this within me innately, and I'm so happy for it, that no man can make me feel bad about myself. If I feel myself, it's because I decided that that's something, and that's something that everybody that feels bad about themselves, they allow that to happen.
Exactly.
You don't have to be that way. If you're poor, you're gonna be poor. You're gonna be poor. You have to be rich in order to become rich.
Yep, there you go. See, this is why I'm the way I am. People, you hear it, my daddy. right here, me and my
Well,
dad. But
you
dad,
know,
back to you working your jobs. I remember you told me a story how you and I think it was old man cousin Andre, how y'all would have to walk with a newspaper in y'all shoes in the cold and carry bags, but y'all were determined to make
if
some
I
money and
took you
also
in my closet now, you would see 50 or more pairs of shoes. And
yes, my dad is sharp. My dad
and I have that because I'll never forget this experience of we were so broke, because I don't like to use the term poor, that I would keep the same shoes for so long that I would walk holes in my shoes. And I remember one day I jumped off the step onto a lit cigarette and it went in the hole of my shoe and it burnt the bottom of my feet.
Oh.
People might, some people might look at that and say I was traumatized by that. That I was a little traumatized by it, but I learned something. That I'll never have holes in my shoes again. I made that commitment to myself. And from that day on, I never had a hole in my shoe. Because when I got some money, I bought me a pair of shoes.
Yeah.
So I decided how that was going to go. And and to the day, I got so many shoes that, and if I see a pair of shoes today and I don't need them, but if I see a pair of shoes today, I'm liable to buy them.
My dad's sharp. I still got your hat. I was gonna wear your hat on the show because I'm never giving that hat back. It's mine.
Well, we'll see about that when I come back to Philadelphia. But my cousins, I love them and thank them for this today, because I didn't have any brothers and I didn't have a father. I grew up in a house full of females. I have such I revere women, especially Black women. And I grew up being able to see the power that Black women have. And it is Black men, I'm gonna tell you something. They told us that they gave us this whole story wrong. We come from Black women. We come out of Black women. So Black women have to be strong. And the only thing that I could do with my Black women is hold them up and revere them, because they are awesome. Black women are awesome. And where would I be today without Black women? My mother, my aunts, So I grew up in a household without any, but I'm a male. I have a male in me. So that's the only thing that can come out of me. And so I gravitated more towards my cousins because it was about 5.
How many of them were it? You said the Crawford.
It was 9 of them. It was 7 of us. Ultimately, it was 9 of them. And
7 and 9.
There were actually times where we sat down at the table and ate together. So
can you imagine 7 and 9?
9 and 7 is 16. And that's not in
one house.
Oh, and we used to have to sit down and eat, make one big pot in order for everybody to eat. And that's how close we were as a family.
Yeah.
They took me across town and taught me how to hustle, carry people groceries. I actually had customers that would come every week that I would carry their groceries home for them. They would pay me. So I made a couple of dollars. And we used to actually have to walk through the snow carrying people's groceries. I remember walking through the snow with cardboard in my shoes. I remember this. But I never saw myself as being poor. I always saw, this is just what life.
You are.
I remember, this is a funny thing, I remember on Gordon Dolphin, which was the AMP where he hustled. A guy watched me hustle all day long. I made maybe $1.37. He came up to me and said, young man, he said, you hustle good. He said, I like the way I've been watching you. I like the way you hustle. So he pumped me up and he gave me this ring. He said, you like that ring? I said, yeah. And it looked all nice and shiny. It had a little diamond in it and everything. So he said, how much you made today? So I told him, he said, you know what? That's how much this ring cost. And all I could think about was taking this ring home to my mother and giving it to her because it was so valuable. Well, I traded all the money that I made that week with this ring. I went home, my mother almost whooped my butt for being so stupid. However, that is my first lesson, that you don't get something for nothing. You do got. When somebody gets you, it's because you was looking for something for nothing in the beginning.
Yeah, you thought she was getting somebody else.
Yeah, I thought I was getting something that was worth more than what I gave. So I was getting something of nothing.
Yeah.
But I got taken. And to the day I remember this because it taught me a lesson. So,
yeah, and you ain't never you knew that wasn't happening again.
Oh, no, because look, I haven't gotten like that since.
And my dad don't play about his money.
Oh no,
my dad don't play about no money.
No, you don't have to play about money. That's I make, and I don't have to give you my money. This is you know, I'm just not money. Just
if you hear my aunt tell it, you like you go get nothing from him. My dad is very generous.
Oh, I give mine because when I give mine, I give me. So, but I'm talking about just squandering my money.
Yeah.
I squandered a lot of money on drugs and alcohol and stuff.
Oh, we're gonna get into that because I would like to talk about that. So we talked about you and your hustling and you with our cousins, the Crawfords. They were in your life. Well, you have a cousin that you kind of both of y'all just hung and stayed together along with your other friends who end up being my uncles, like my Uncle Norman, Uncle Roscoe, Tom, and all those people. So let's talk about them.
Well,
let's talk about your time with Cousin Riz and well, Cousin James was a little bit older than you, but Cousin Riz and Uncle Roscoe and Uncle Norman.
The people that you mentioned.
I think, wait a minute, I think everything that happened with the statute of limitations is over, so you can talk about it freely.
Yeah, I can, because during that time, we did some things that we were growing up. That way, we were
coming of age.
We were teenagers. We grew up from, say, 14, and the crew that we hung out with, we basically stayed together, and we hung out. We experienced so much together up until we had gotten married. I mean, I was.
And y'all still, even now.
Yeah, and even now, I mean, we're family. Once you're family, you're family.
Family.
You know. My cousin Riz is a Crawford. We decided we were going to hang out. We got real close and we hung out together, and we experienced a lot. We went through we started out in the gangs, and so we drank a lot of wine. One of the things I found when I drank wine, if I remember the first time I drank wine, all the fears and all that inhibitions and stuff like that kind of left me. So it allowed me to act in ways that I wouldn't ordinarily act because of all of these fears that I had. I mean, I don't recommend it. I don't think it should be anything external that'll make you be who you are. But
it was necessary at that time for you.
Yeah, at that time, that was the only way that I could experience that, because basically everything else around me went against who I was.
It was telling you not to be you. It was pushing you down. You was able to break through.
Not to be that. So the only thing that was left was a lot of fear of being this and doing that. So the drinking kind of allowed me to do these things, rebel, and feel confident in doing these things. So it allowed me to do these things. And we went from there, we went to drugs.
What kind of drugs, Dad? You might as well just put it out there.
Well, we started smoking marijuana at first.
Yeah, the reason why I'm putting it out there, Dad, is because it's important. This is something that
Oh,
people go
yeah.
through, and also it taught me not to want to do drugs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind talking about this because these things that I grew up with, they were also designed for us.
Oh, but that's what I want to talk about before you go on. What was the difference? Because you grew up in an era with the free love. Well, you was older then when the 70s came and free love and all that drugs and just everybody doing whatever. But you in the 60s, before they started pushing hard drugs and guns within our community, like the start of it. Right. It was mainly just smoking a little bit of weed, drinking and stuff. You didn't do.
Oh yeah, I mean we sort of evolved into that marijuana during the time of marijuana. All it did was make stronger that bond that we had as a community.
Yeah.
When marijuana first came out, and I don't think they were really meant for that to happen.
No.
So all of a sudden, things like speed and pills started coming in the community. So naturally, being curious, we experimented with the what we used to call Monster, which was speed.
Monster was called Speed. Monster and Speed were the same things?
Monster and Speed were the same thing. As a matter of fact, I became a speed demon with the because I did speed every day.
Really? You say speed?
I mean, I didn't, and well, we also, but in the interim of that, I'm just going on my experience, but
yeah,
bigger experience was heroin.
Yeah, because that was out.
Oh, heroin! When they hit our communities with heroin, that is when our community started going down. Mm. I come to find out that there were always heroin addicts in our community before I come along. Mm-hmm. But heroin addicts then, they were functioning.
Mm-hmm. It probably was pure opium.
Some of the guys that I knew, they were yachts. I mean, they dressed fine.
Explain that before you can say it, Dan.
But they were hooked on drugs. And then
explain what a yacht was. Tell people.
Oh, a yacht was somebody who dressed. That was the best dressed cat. I mean, he shopped at Moorvilles and Diamonds. These were high-end men's clothing stores, Boyd's and all of them. They've since closed down, but only the yachts was able to shop there, and there was expensive clothes. You got the best, like Brothers and stuff like that. We had Botany 500. We had a Botany 500 factory in Philadelphia. Philadelphia was actually a manufacturing town.
Yeah, because we had factories all over. They're turning them into condos now.
We even had a garment district in Philadelphia. I used to hustle the garment district at one time.
Because my father, he was taught to be a tailor as well. My father has many skills. Yeah. So. Oh
yeah. I'm a barber, but tailor. When I come right out of school, while I was going, when I came out of school, the government would give you money to go to school. So I would get and that was a way of getting money and put it in my pocket and going to school and learning things at the same time. Well, I went to tailoring school. I went enough to make a suit. I made a 3-piece suit, and after that, I just collected the money and got high. So we myself and the crew that I was involved with, which was Reg, Norman, Raymond, Tommy, Gilly was part of our crew at first. Who else? Ryan Payton was Brenda in the Tabulation. Brenda Payton.
That's a group. My father knows a lot of musicians that are from Philly. We have the Uptown Theater. We'll talk about that because he has experiences with that. But Brenda and the Tabulations is a group, and my father knew.
Yeah, if you listen, if you go on that show where they play old music, the Temptations or whatnot, you'll hear some of her music there. Well, anyway, we we hung out together, did all kinds of drugs, and during this era, it was well, we all know about that history. It was during the civil rights era. It was during the riot seasons.
I want to talk about the riots as well. What was going on in Philly? I don't know what was going on in Philly exactly during the Detroit riots in the 60s, or what happened in LA, because there was LA riots prior to Rodney King when I was younger, right?
Yeah. Well, about a lot of riots was one of the main riots that I remember was when Martin Luther King got assassinated. When he got assassinated, they started riots all over the country. Had riots in Philadelphia, and mainly on all the shopping areas, like which was Columbia Avenue, which used to live on.
Cecil B. Moore. It's known as Cecil B. Moore now, after Cecil B. Moore, but now they're changing it back. They're changing it back to Columbia Avenue, possibly, because we're not supposed to be in that area anymore.
Oh, anymore. Well, anyway, they had the biggest riots was on Columbia Avenue, where white folks owned the stores and whatnot. And so during that time, there was a lot of race riots, a lot of racism, a lot of things. It was the Black Panthers was coming along then.
Did we have a sector here in Philadelphia with the Black Panthers?
Oh yeah, we had a Black Panthers.
Please speak about Marcus Garvey, because he had a big influence.
And Marcus Garvey had a building, and still does. The Garvey movement is still on Cecil B. Moore, which is
yes, it is.
Some of them guys are still there. I mean, to the day. So we had different organizations. I remember my crew, the ones that I named, we were militant, and we decided we were going to, because we thought that there would be an uprising at the time. So we was going to prepare for that uprising. And I remember we were going to go to Washington to be trained militarily.
Really?
Yeah, so we could be Black militants. And your cousin, her husband went with
which cousin?
Liz.
Cousin Lizzie, okay.
Her husband, Alan.
Sharifah and them did.
Yeah, Sharifah and them's father. Him and a brother, Rasul, went, because he named his son after Rasul.
Yeah, man is named after, yeah.
Yeah, they went to, well, we were all crew. Our crew had, which was our juniors, that age in the gang, which was my cousin James, Mark, which was Sweet Pea, and during that crew, during that age group, they were older than us. They would, we had kept that same hierarchy. I don't care what we did, we kept that same hierarchy. And I mean, it even lasts to the day, because some guys that I know that was old heads then, they still my old head.
Yeah, the ranking system still is there, and the respect.
So, and the respect and all of that is still there, because that's something that we'll never let go. Shame that's not happening today. But anyway.
Yeah, and that's important. I'm glad you said that, Dad, because that's something within our culture that because we are following other people's culture, we do have a hierarchy, and we do have a certain respect for our elders. And elders could be someone who's just a couple of years older than you. And because it's important, because they do teach and look out and pass on what they should do.
Like I said, I grew up in a family full of females, and had it not been for them guys on the street, they raised me as to become a man, because they wouldn't allow me to do certain things.
Yeah.
Things I couldn't do in the community that didn't reflect a man. No. And they
held you to a standard.
These guys would chastise you. And nothing your mother or father would even say. So that was just the community.
So back to So y'all were going to go to Washington. What was going on in Washington that you thought, like Washington D.C. or Washington?
Well, yeah, there was this guy in Washington, Major somebody, I forget his name, I can't even remember, but he was supposed to have this camp that would train us to be militants. So we would come back to Philadelphia and be the Philadelphia branch. So when the revolution started, we would be connected. Well, however, Alan and Wasul, they was the first wave that was supposed to leave here and go to Washington and be trained. My cousin James at marketing was going to be the second wave, and we were going to be the third wave. Well, as the first wave went, they come to find out that this guy is to show you what they do to what you call so-called leaders. This guy was actually training them to be drug dealers. He was pushing.
That was one of them, probably them CIA agents, like how they normally do, like how they implant them in our communities and make them seem like,
yeah.
To teach them to come back into our communities to destroy it. Right. And that comes from the government that y'all love so much. But go ahead, Dad.
Wasul and Alan were so dedicated that Alan and Wasul decided they didn't want us to come into that. They decided they were going to leave from there and come back here. Well, the guy who was running that thing and the people, they found out that they knew and what they were going to do. So they killed Wasul. And Alan escaped. He happened to escape by the hair of his chin back to us and told us exactly what happened. Part of our revolutionary career sort of ended. But
yeah, and that had to be heartbreaking a little bit, because I know y'all were like gung-ho about being there and having somebody that was going to go along with helping and protecting your community. And then, so I can understand how someone in the Black Panthers could feel when they knew somebody set Bobby Seale. I mean, set them up.
Yeah. I mean, we had a direction, and that direction was right the way. So we had to regroup, and the way we regrouped, and that's where the drugs came in. So I remember myself, your cousin Reds, which is Stanley and Norman, we decided we got a gun from Mark. We were going to go rob this bar that was on Lehigh Avenue, 8th and Lehigh, which was across from my aunt's house. So we decided we were going to go rob the bar, take the money, and we were going to buy guns for the revolution. We were on our way to the bar, and I had a Colt 45 down in my pants. One of them old...
those are long guns, everybody.
Gunsmoke Colt 45s down in my pants. The barrel came all the way down to my knees.
Who gave Mark the gun? That big gun?
Well, this boy it was his father's gun. We got the gun. And so we walking down the street. In them days, when three black male was you couldn't walk
more than two
feet without getting stopped.
But so, that's, Dad, you're just speaking about that being back in the day, and we're going to definitely talk about the story. But that is even to this day, that's where loitering laws come from, people. Yeah. Because if more than two Blacks are together, then you got to break it up or you'll go to jail. And I'm going to even go further with that. When you're in the office and there's one or two Black people talking, and then the third come, and then there's always somebody come in and say, what you guys talking about? Yeah. Or someone goes and tells on you and say, I don't know what they were talking about. So y'all still, loitering laws still exist. Yeah. I'll be careful out there.
Well, the loitering law, they don't want to see two or three. See, when three people come together, they figure and out of their fear. See, it's all operated out of fear. They afraid we're going to do something to them because they know what they did to us. So they want to
we're not evil. So we don't come from an evil place.
Evil, we got to say evil, So anyway, we got this gun. I got this gun. We going to rob this thing. So the police pulls up on us and put us against the fence. But as they was coming up on us, they put their guns out. In them days, they put their guns up to you automatically.
Well, that happens today too.
And I said, we're going to shoot this out. So I goes to pull the out of my holster, and honestly, I can hear an ancestor or God or somebody talk to me. I could hear it plain as I'm talking, saying, put that gun back. Everything got quiet and everything started moving in slow motion. Well, I knew then that my life was in the balance.
Yeah.
Either way. Well, anyway, the cop, I realized that I had the gun, and he got his gun up to my head, and he was so scared and nervous that he was hitting me in the head with the barrel, bah, 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 like that, shaking. And I talked to him. I said, officer, take the gun. The gun is right there. You could take it, just take your other hand. I said, hold your hand with the gun, keep it to my head, take it out, and take the gun. So he took the gun. But anyway, they locked us up. They put us in the back of a meat wagon. They called them meat wagons back then, where they could put, well, they were ride wagons because you could put 10 black men back then in one of the wagons. So it was us three back there. And I remember this police turned around and told me, he said, whoever you pray to, get on your knees and say a prayer, because everything I was trained to do, I was supposed to blow your brains out.
Yeah, that would have been it, Dad.
It's supposed to be laying in there. So I also believe in my ancestors that.
Well, you had a lot of wonderful women back on Mervyn Street and back around the neighborhood.
They were praying. They were praying. Well, we concocted this story while we were in the wagon. And the story worked because they couldn't indict us, you know, for the gun, because we told them that we found the gun and we was taking it to my aunt. We told them that we found the gun broke up, and the gun broke up in 3 pieces. And we said
it was a big gun.
And I picked up the barrel. Norman picked up the chain, the other thing, and Reyes picked up the handle, and we just put it together and was taking it to my aunt. So, but anyway, the judge, I remember the judge told me, because see, I was known as the most rebellious out of the 3, because I didn't go to school. I was hooky school, and it wasn't my first time getting locked up. So I had sort of a juvenile record. And so he said, he said, I don't know how y'all getting away with this. He said, but I'm letting you go this time. He said, but if you ever come in front of me, he said, as a matter of fact, I know you coming in front of me, and I'm going to send you to jail. I made up my mind right then that I'm not coming back here no more. And I went back to jail. Well, I went back to jail once for protesting, but that was.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that as well, because that happened later on. That was right outside the barbershop, right?
Yeah.
So back to just where we talked about the 60s, and we talked about how the change of drugs coming into the community, and then another wave of drugs coming into the community, because you were older when the crack started coming into the community.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you this, because it just shows how things come in the community. I used to be able to go to the drugstore and get codeine from the druggist, counter, and he would have boxes of it, and we would line up, and he would sell it to us over the counter
to get you started. That's how they do. Drug dealers give it to you first, so you can keep coming back. Exactly.
And you know, and then, you know, I experimented with cocaine and whatnot, but all at the same time, I had a barbershop, and I functioned.
What made you become a barber though, Dad?
Well, that was a need that was needed in the community, and that was a way to make some money. I didn't plan to be a barber, but I saw that was a way. Once I got married, I saw that was a way that I could control my own destiny and make money for my family. And I think they did pretty good with the shopping.
I love going to the barbershop. I remember sweeping. Y'all used to let me sweep down that little hole that used to get all the hair and stuff. I remember that, laying on those chairs up on 10th and Dolphin.
10th and Dolphin, yeah. 10th and Susquehanna, actually.
Yeah, Susquehanna. Dad, also, before we go, we talked about the Black Panthers. I'm so glad you told me about y'all plans on actually, you know, and y'all were young. That was just amazing for you to be young.
I was 16, 17 years old.
Yeah, to want to just take control of your community and take care of it.
That's what we wanted to. We were becoming young men, and that's what men do. Men, you're not
need a responsibility, right?
Destiny. If you don't control your own destiny, you're not a man.
And what did you tell me about men? Men need a responsibility.
But if you're a male and you're going through life trying to shirk responsibility and run from responsibility, you're running from being a man. Because a man's supposed to take care of somebody, his community, his family, something. Have a family, or he has a community. He finds somebody to take care of. That's what a man's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Now, you have these guys around here that call themselves homosexuals or whatever. That's okay. What you do in bed with somebody else, that's your business. As long as you don't come in my bed with it. That's your business. But if you was born a male, you're a man. I knew plenty homosexual men.
My dad did you did a group. What? You
I did.
My
I did a men's group. I did a men's group with 75% of the men in that group were homosexual. And
talk about that. We can always go back and forth, but talk about that because that's important. Because you being a heterosexual, because now we got to say heterosexual and homosexual. You're a man. Men is
we were all men, and that's how I looked at it. That we were men.
Because you were all men. What you do in your bedroom have nothing to do with your manhood.
Right. That's. Thank you. What you do with your sex has nothing to do with your manhood. You're a man, and the community need to see you as a man. I knew many men that were homosexual, but when they walked the community, they were Mr. So-and-so and Mr. So-and-so.
And didn't you say you knew like a gangster who was?
Well,
I don't know if you could say.
he was gay. His whole crew was gay. They were gangsters. They would rob you. They whoop your ass. Excuse my especially a beat. You didn't mess with them cats.
Yeah. Because they were men.
Because one thing didn't have nothing to do with the other.
There you go. But then again, we're talking about us trying to live in somebody else's culture and not live in ours. Because we don't sit around hating each other. We don't sit around mistreating each other based on what you do. And we based on your actions within your community. Your community. Not based on what you do behind your closed doors.
What them guys did, they got respect from everybody in the community because what they did it amongst themselves.
Yeah, and that was their business.
Publicize it and try to put that on somebody else. Now, the group that I ran with men, we would sit and talk about different things, experiences, and every one of them that I remember, every one of them was molested when they were a child.
That's so sad.
They grew up feeling this. When you sexually turn, that's why it's called molestation. But when you sexually turn something on in a human being, they turn something on them guys. So
and it's not always
good. It felt good to them physically. So they thought because it felt good that's how they defined themselves. Oh, felt good. They decided they want to keep doing it, but that is not how you define yourself.
And not only that, that trauma, it didn't always come from men touching little boys. It was women doing it too.
Women have sexually abused young boys and distort their idea of sex.
Or make them fear the idea of having
young Black men have a distortion of what sex is about.
Yeah. They believe, from what I understand, what I hear from men, believe that it's like back in slavery, that they're just bucks and they're supposed to just do it wildly and they don't have any emotions with anything.
You don't have you don't care about the direction. However, even back in them days, a man was a man. Mm-hmm. He slept. He wasn't a gay man.
He's just a man.
He wasn't. Nothing went in front of that man. He was a man. Mm-hmm. He was a man who liked other men.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
That was his business. And we had a gay guy that lived in the building in the project. His name was Alexander. I'll never forget him. The whole time we knew him. Hi, Alexander. How you doing? How you doing? No, we knew what he was about. Mm-hmm. Night Alexander got dressed up in a white dress, and never forget this. Mm-hmm. Dress was going to a party. What did he do that for? He was coming down the fire escape on the back, and he was hiding. Why was he hiding? Because he wanted the public, the people, we knew who he was, what he was, but he was a man that had no business wearing no dress in our community, a dress. Mm-hmm. So he knew what was going to happen. We caught him and teased him and beat him up on the way out. Mm-hmm. But we didn't beat him up because he was a fag. We beat him up because he was getting ready to go on the street with a dress on.
Mm-hmm. It was
That's a whole different. We knew what he was about. He kept that to himself. But when he brought that in the community, that was.
But I'm just want to put the contrast, because people in this world be like, oh, you did this. But if it was somebody, anything that was done in our community that wasn't right, well, if you was trying to sell drugs to a child, you would have beat them up, because that wasn't something in our community that you were supposed to do. And you can do whatever you want to do, but certain things just wasn't going to happen within our community. So it didn't have anything to do with him being gay or anything. It was like, hey, whatever you do it in your privacy and not in the community. If you had a woman who was walking around butt naked and nasty, she would have got torn.
She would have got it.
Yeah.
The women would have probably tore her butt up. Mm-hmm. And that's how it was. You did what you did. Certain things are meant to be out there, and certain things aren't for the good of your community. Mm-hmm. Community now. Look at what we do to each other. Look around you. Look at everything.
I'm just one more thing about that. I was out with Naima, your niece, my cousin, and she has a cousin, which my cousin here too, who's transgender. Mm-hmm. And we went out, and we were just at a bar or something, and this man had just something like leaned against my arm, and he or her said, well, I'm sorry, sir. I thought you must have thought I was a woman, but I'm a man, and touched my cousin again.
Right.
So even within that, he said, and whatever, you can be whoever you want to be, dress how you want to dress, and do that. I knew I was protected, because however he feels or however she feels and dresses, no, he has to protect me.
Right.
Because that's what we do in our community. Men
that's what came out in him when he saw that. That naturally came out in him. Mm-hmm. So, sometimes what you are is going to show. What you are, mm-hmm. It's going to. It's just what it takes to bring that out. Mm-hmm. But I'm just saying, you had to be conscious of how you were affecting the community. Mm-hmm. The whole community didn't have to change because you decide you want to do this or be called that. So now everybody has to change. No, you change for the community, or you live for the community. The community don't live for you.
Mm-hmm. Because the community has to continue going on. That's the ultimate goal. Mm-hmm.
That's right. So, a lot of people may not understand that.
Well, it ain't for them. We understand it.
It's not for you to understand it. This is me. This is me, mm-hmm. My story.
And even when you talk about that, and we talk about the other people culture that's not ours, they have so much hate for people who are homosexuals. They have so much disdain for them, and they hurt them and kill them.
Well, that's where all the violence for homosexuals and stuff come from.
Yeah.
People never persecuted nobody for that.
You get teased. Everybody gets teased. You handicapped, you getting teased. If you this, you getting teased. Everybody getting teased. Everybody.
That brings me to bullies. When they talk bullied. We never had the problem, but we've been bullies since beginning of time, I imagine. I've always had bullies in my neighborhoods, schools, and stuff like that. But you know what that taught me? That taught me to deal with it. That taught me how to deal with this type of person. It made me who I am. I found something within myself to deal with that person so that I'll live and I'll survive.
You became creative with your life.
Some of them I had to make jokes around so that they would beat me up. I had to figure it out. And that's how I learned to survive.
Because it's nobody else's responsibility
It's
to live your life.
nobody else's responsibility for my survival. I have to, the world comes at me and I have to learn how to disseminate it and deal with it for the best of me. And each person, unless you're handicapped, each person.
They got it too.
They some of them too, but we here to protect those who, who physically and mentally can't. So see you protecting them. But anybody else, you figure it out, because once you figure it out, you don't have to worry about that. You got somebody protecting you against that. You never figure it out. You never get over it. That bully still lives with you because you haven't conquered that bully yet.
And you'll find them at any age. You'll find them in any place.
And whoever's protecting you is not going to be there all the time.
Just like your parents say, you have to stand up for yourself. And that's how I teach my children, because I'm not going to be there all the time.
That's right. You make survivors out of them. They have to find their way. You have to find your way. You can't. You as much as I'm a parent, I'm a grandparent. I love my grandchildren, and when I find myself worrying about them, I have to change that within myself, because for one thing, that's their life. The same God that took care of me will take care of them. The other thing is,
hold on, Dad. Hold on before you say something, because I got. Okay, now go ahead and say it.
Death is all a part of life, and who knows how long we're going to be here. We go around up until when we was in Africa, so death wasn't something that we scoffed at.
It's just a rebirth.
Here we saw, son, that's a shame. That's a life. That's who is to say death? Why is death has to be worse, so bad? It could be the best thing that you ever experienced.
And what if death is life?
What is the, there's no such thing as death. You transition. This is what I believe. You believe whatever you want to believe. But I'll never die.
You can't, because energy matter never can die.
I say I'll never die. And I command that. I decide that.
And it's just science there, because matter can never be destroyed. Our spirit
can never be destroyed. What is, was, and always will be.
And who was, is, and was, and always will be us.
And it's going to keep on and keep on. It might take different forms, look different or whatever, but it's the same. It's matter. Science was there to prove the existence of God. Now they turned science into something to disprove the existence.
Well, some people can't understand things holistically, so they have to only understand it the way that they can. And that's what we accept those people, but it doesn't mean we have to believe it the way they do it. Well, so Dad, I have some questions down here for you. Did you have any male figures outside of your cousins, like a grown-up, like a teacher or someone of that influenced you or mentored you, or just something that left a moment in your life that stuck with you?
Well, I had several older people who, and each one of them left me with something. Like the guy who lived next door to me, Mr. Raymond, the Chambers father. The Chambers father, they had 13 children. That man lived in, they couldn't have been on welfare because he worked every day. And that's why I say you have a choice. His children dressed just as good as anybody else. That man, I would see him early in the morning with his lunch bag going to work every day. Oh, of course he hustled. He ran.
Oh, yeah.
But he was a hero that's one of my heroes. They get out there and do that 9 to 5. Don't get me wrong. He's a hero because he keeps his family together. He was them guys that decided to stay and say, yeah, I'm here. I'm staying here. You're not coming in my house with that. Go to work. I'll do this. I'll take it. So them guys was heroes of mine. Guys the teachers I went to school with, one Mr. Session. Mr. Session used to tear my behind up because I was and I found him paddling me with the paddle all the time. Session could come over my house and talk to my mother.
That's how you're supposed to.
He walked through that community, and he would tear your butt up, and people would know, I hope he ain't coming over my house. I think about doing that to Mr. Session. We loved Mr. Session, and loved us. I learned so much from him. Bruce Jones, there was a guy named Bruce Jones. When I worked for the school district, he was a mentor of mine. He told me to verify it to me. He said, you don't do nothing for 10 years, over 10 years. Position or nothing you have on a job. He said, if you can't move after a while, it's time to move on from anything.
Yeah.
You know, Mr. Jones was gay. Mr. Jones didn't like women in that way. He liked men in that way. But Mr. Jones told me, he said, I'm celibate. He said, I never had sex with a man. He said, but that's what I prefer. He said, if I was to have sex, I would have, and he was a rare dude because he didn't have sex with women. If I was to, it would be a man, it wouldn't be a woman. That's interesting. And all you knew him by was Mr. Jones. And he was a mentor to so many people in the school district. So that just shows you could be who you want to be. And then one of the things I told them guys in that men's group, I said, half of y'all ain't nothing but sex maniacs. You gay don't mean you have to go around having sex with everybody.
Thank you, Dad. And that's another thing that comes from somebody else's culture. We clean. We don't just go around doing certain things.
Trying to do it to everybody just because you gay.
Because that does not synonymous. It's not synonymous to being gay. Gay just means that you have a different partner.
I'm a heterosexual male. Some women are heterosexual women. They whores. A whore. A whore. A whore's a whore. I don't care what your damn sex is.
You said it.
A whore's a whore, and you can't throw no sex on that. You know, so don't hand me that. I don't even really want to hear all that stuff about your sex because I really could care less what your preference is. It ain't me.
Yeah.
My preference is women. I ain't saying there's something wrong with that or never, or whatever. But you ain't gonna see me have sex with no woman because I don't need nobody in my bedroom with me having sex with a woman. Yeah. You don't know whether I'm one or not.
Because it's none of your business.
It ain't none of your damn business.
And who you have sex with doesn't define who you are as a person.
As a person.
Because there's a lot of things people do behind closed doors that heterosexual, you say, oh, I ain't, oh no. I would never do something like that.
But that's them. And everybody's perfect. Everybody has it. You know, perfect. But what we give our community is community. Yes. That's important. We want to have an upstanding community. And nobody trying to stop you from doing what you do, but it's a way you do it.
Because men.
My mother used to always tell me, it ain't what you do, it's how you do it.
It's how you do it. Because the men in our community, for the boys, they teach them to be men. And for the women, they show them what a man's supposed to be in their life. However you are. And the women, the same thing. The women show how to be nurturing as a woman and also show how you should be nurtured as a man. Dad, you told me this story one time, and when you spoke about how powerful Black women are, you told me about the neighbor who pulled the man who was a drunk or whatever off the street and cleaned him up.
Yeah. Chicken. Miss Lucille lived right next door to me on Diamond Street. And Chicken, we had a bar, the Crystal Bar, that was directly across from our house. And I used to, oh man, it was so wonderful because I used to sit in the window, and that was like watching the movie on Saturday nights, because all kinds, I mean, women and men would come there dressed to the nines. And they come out there fighting and, you know, cussing and all kinds of stuff going on. But so Chicken was one of them drunks. He would get drunk and just lay down in the street. You know, back then you could lay in the street like you was at home. Ain't nobody bothering you. People just stepped over you. You say, oh, that's Chicken.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Lucille must have took a liking to Chicken. She went across the street, I'll never forget. Grabbed Chicken, smacked him around.
You can cuss that.
House. You ain't see Chicken for a while, but Chicken come out. Chicken was sober as a fish and stayed sober ever since. She had a little boy named, what was that little boy named Papa? We used to call him Papa. That was Chicken's son. She had about Chicken, but she changed that man's life around. She picked him, dusted him off, and he became respectable. We would call him Mr. Chicken.
Now, Dad, you told me this one thing about women. You said, oh, a man is only going to do what a woman will allow.
Oh, yeah. Well, of course, you got the type of men that will force a woman. But
I'm talking about in relationships.
Them kind of men their spirit need to be recycled anyway. But when it comes to a man and a woman, pretty much, I'm reluctant to say this because people might take it the wrong way. Women runs a relationship.
Mm-hmm. And as you can see how things are terrible now because they're not running them.
Because they're not running it.
They're not running them. They're not standing
Look, let me tell you something. I went to Africa, and I went to Liberia after they had the revolution. You know who stopped that revolution? You know, the women. The women got together and stopped the whole war.
They said enough is enough.
They said enough is enough. We ain't having. And they stopped.
Yeah.
Women determines a lot. Men, we are here to protect them. That's the power we have. We have the power to protect the power. They're spiritual. They're the ones that keeps the spiritual thing in the home. The man, he goes out and builds the home. He does the tangible stuff. That's tangible stuff. Women does the real stuff that's in the subjective realm, the spiritual stuff.
Which allows the men to go back out there. Yeah.
I mean, we have our spiritual side because we all yeah. But women they're predominant. They have the spiritual powers.
And if a woman
if
says,
you're a wise man, you would hitch up to that wagon. you hitch up to that wagon and let it roll. If you come off that ego, I'm a man, you don't have to convince yourself you're a man. If you're a man, you're a man. You don't have to convince nobody of that.
And I'm glad you said that, Dad, because I firmly believe that because I know how I am as a woman and what I accept and what I expect from men. And I get it. And you see how the relationships are now. But again, it's going off of living somebody else's culture. Our women have always worked. Our women have always been respected by our men. A man knows when he get a certain look from a woman to just stop.
That's right.
And we're not physically stronger than you, but we will knock you out in other ways that will hurt worse than a punch.
And I tell you, if you violate a woman, that is something that'll be with you all your life. You'll pay for it. You believe you can't violate a woman and just walk away from that and forget about it.
So yeah, sisters, we need to go on, be women.
Be who you, don't stop being, I would tell my daughters, you're important. You don't have to be downtrodden by any man. You don't have to accept anything from anyone.
And we're not equal.
No, we're not. Please, that's
No.
that's not in our world. We are not equal.
We come together. We're complementary to each other.
That's right.
There we go. But there's no equal thing. Men have their jobs, and women have their jobs.
And never the twain shall meet. we come together.
It's complementary.
A man is not meant to do a woman's job, and a woman is not meant to be a man, do a man's job. All of this may sound old-fashioned. You may say old-fashioned, but let me tell you something. Truth stays truth forever. Look at the way the world is now, and we're trying to change. We're trying to change the way things are or was, and look at the results.
Look at this disaster. Look at the chaos.
That's
the
right.
anxiety, the mental anguish that's happening because you're trying to be something that you're not. How dare I say I'm equal to a man? I'm not saying men. I love men. Oh, I love men. But me equal to a man? You know how much weight of the world that we have to carry that a man could never.
That's right.
Ever carry.
I don't want it. I thank God every day that he made me a man. God, he or she, mother, father, God made me a man. Because I couldn't, I think about it, I couldn't do it and wouldn't do it.
You say, I wouldn't do it.
If I was a woman, I'd be one of the worst women you ever see. I would have a lot of money.
I bet, I know.
I would have a lot of money, but you would call me all sorts of things.
Like when we were talking about the wars before.
Yeah, you would call me things that I can't even think of myself now. If I was a woman. So God, you know, he, she, you know, but even my God lives in me anyway.
Oh, I didn't play this game with you, Dad, that I play on all the time. I don't think I played last time. I created these cards. Did I? I think we did play it, but it's like an icebreaker, just questions or things to do, just to make this fun and interesting and lead us on to other discussions, possibly. So I don't know if you'll be able to see it. I'm going to pick a card for you, and I'm going to pick a card for myself. Let me know if you're able to see this card from me. Can you see it, or is the light blinding it?
No, go to your left a little bit, and then come a little close. It's over to the left a little bit more, and back some. Back to your right. Oh, stop right there.
Don't say it, just read it.
I know I am.
Don't say it, just read it.
Oh.
You got it?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, that's your card that you're going to say to me. Now I'm picking a card to say to you. All right, I'll go first. Oh, question. How are you mean to yourself? It can be anything. Mean? Yeah, anything.
Mean, like not kind to myself.
Yeah, if it's maybe getting angry sometimes, or maybe not eating right, or maybe anything small to large, or not.
Well,
anything.
The way that I'm mean to myself is when I'm mean to others. When I I have to judge you to be mean to you. And when I'm mean, when I'm like that, I'm not feeling good, and I know I have to have passed judgment on you. And that's what I'm learning not to do, is to judge a person. I don't judge people. I want to, before I leave this world, I want to be totally without judging.
Cool. All right. So what was the one that you had for me? What did it say?
What did it say?
Yeah.
It said, I know I am.
Okay. So I know I am extraordinary. I know I am extraordinarily grateful. That's what I'll say. I know that. I know that is when I have full gratitude of my existence. I have full gratitude of my being, my full gratitude of my life, full gratitude of all the lessons I've learned. I am fully, extraordinarily grateful.
That's wonderful. I think that's
all right. Let's see what else we want to talk about. So we talked about, what was going on with Malcolm X? We didn't even speak about Malcolm X. What did you know about Malcolm? Which he came to Philly and stayed for a while. Well, no, and Muhammad Ali, because he was in Philly during sometimes with Joe Frazier.
Well, I knew of Malcolm X through the Nation of Islam.
Mm-hmm.
They had a masjid at Brodendorf and over top of the store where I used to carry groceries. The store since closed, but over top of it, they had a big lot of space, and they would have meetings where the Fruit of Islam would come, and they would have the meetings and stuff.
Oh, Dad, before you get going, I gotta tell you what your grandchild did. We were driving, and we saw one of the FOIs on selling bean pies, and I was looking for money to give him before I got to the light, and she was like, "Mom, did you find money to give to the pie in the face guy?"
The pie in the face.
He thought if I gave him money, he was gonna smash the pie in his face. Because he's all dressed up, and she thought he was like
with the bow tie and everything.
I said, "No, that's the fruits of Islam. They not." She said, "I thought the way he was holding it, he was going to smash the pie in his face, and he was going to pay him to do
it." Well, that girl, you talking about a child with a mind of her own? Look, she thinks of it.
But what you were saying about them on top of the story?
Malcolm X, back then, if you had a business, they expected you to contribute part of your money to the masjid, which I didn't have a problem with, because I felt that if that money was going to because they was opening up stores and stuff like that, they were opening up businesses in the community. So,
and you could always go to the brothers or the sisters can go there, and if they were hungry,
right,
they would provide.
Right. So I had no problem with that. And when it came to me, I mean, I didn't make a whole lot of money, but I didn't mind donating. One of the things, what I did like about it, some people might have a problem with, the drug dealers in the community, they would come offer the most amount of money.
Good.
Protect it.
Good.
So
everybody has a place in the community.
They were using some of that money to build the community. Everybody.
Well, Dad, what has America been built off of? Slaves and drugs. People keep looking at what we do as something terrible, but excuse me, we only got the drugs because of America.
All we doing is mimicking them, because everything we're doing now, they have already done.
Already done.
They've done
it's the American way.
That's how they got to their status where they are. The Jews did it, the Italians did it, the Irish did it. Everybody did it. Now we're doing it. But the thing about that we're doing, but we are, because I'm seeing it now. We're investing it into our own people in our community.
Yes, and that's becoming great.
I'm not saying that is right. I'm not saying that is right at all.
But then the whole country would be all wrong then, because everything about this country is terribly wrong.
Right. So you take that way, however you want to take it. However, with Malcolm X, I remember when Malcolm X left the Nation of Islam, and I used to listen to a lot of his recordings and stuff like that, which made a lot of sense. But I also felt that Malcolm X, had he understood Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam better, had he understood life more, just plain life more, he might have made different decisions, and he might have played a different role in the Nation of Islam. And I say what I say because you don't hold one man responsible for nothing, because everybody's fallible. We're all fallible. You can find something on me, you, or anybody that if I was a leader of some sort,
you don't make anyone your God.
You don't make it that's you don't hold no man up that high. So if he's doing good, you take the good that he does. And if you find out he's doing something bad, you try to help change him within, but you don't necessarily have to expose that man because when you do that, as you said, you held that man up too high.
And also, we all got to remember the CIA was in that too, and it was talking in one ear and another ear, and then put pennants against each other.
Anytime they had another other black men kill Malcolm X, you know what was about. You
on
know,
stage, yeah.
Yeah, Hoover, you know, that we know the story on him. And so, you know, that's the way that thing went down, and we rioted when they killed him. You know, people, the chaos was, you know, but for that time, that's what we needed.
Yeah,
just like
chaos.
Just like this time, we need to be doing what we're doing now, because it's allowing us to have a catharsis with ourselves. We're doing these things, but we're not going to continue to do these things forever.
Oh, it's changing.
That we're going through.
Yeah.
And I believe the next phase is going to show that it's good, because we can't get much worse.
Yeah, and it's shaking up. This earth is shaking things up.
We're just shaking things up.
Yeah.
At the same time, at the same time, what was my train of thought? You said we're shaking things up. At the same time, what we see in the media and we all see all they're going to show us is the negative.
Yeah, we need to believe our own eyes.
Stuff going on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of positiveness. You talk about like your children, they're geniuses. I'm smart.
One is an evil genius.
Generation is not going to do what this generation does. It never do. It never does. The generation. Think about that.
Yeah.
And also, the generation that had the kids that's having kids now, that had them kids, they were crack addicts. That generation of drug addicts and crack addicts. What do you expect them children to be like?
And then, Gad, look at it. The children of the people from the 80s and the 70s and 80s, we have the most doctors and lawyers.
Yeah. They
graduates.
There's parents or drug addicts.
Because one thing about us, they say we don't die, we multiply. We adapt and get better. We
just adapt to it. All them drugs that I seen them put through our neighborhood, any other people would have been all extinct by now.
Well, you see, they're almost extinct because now they got to have drug clinics with clean needles and
that's what they got to do.
Because they are
because all the drugs that they gave us, it fell back on them.
As always, everything they do
all these
to
programs for their kids to get their kids off these drugs.
Yeah, and our kids became doctors.
Did they have
and
a program? They had the little programs, but the majority of us, we had to just get off the drugs ourselves.
Yeah. Just definitely even now, because rehab
make up your
centers
mind, you're gonna stop doing it.
Yeah, and rehab centers are ridiculously expensive.
Yeah.
They're not, if you're not in one as good, it's horrible, and people aren't gonna be able, people like us who may not have the insurance or the money to do what other people do, or the skin complexion, because it sometimes don't even matter what kind of money you have. It just depends on your complexion.
Yeah.
We don't have the same facilities and resources.
No.
But we do, we make do. And even with the drug addicts, one thing I say that about we're gonna smokers or crackheads, whatever, they worked and they were clean.
Ain't nothing harder than a crack addict worked harder than the crack addict. I ain't never
lift the car up
in my life.
They'll lift the car up on their back and fix that engine for $5.
That's right.
But one thing, they actually worked, and I didn't mind giving them money, or they boosted. They did something to get their drugs.
Look, like I said, I'm not here to judge nobody. God asks us to do is love each other. And that means crack addict, that's the homosexuals, that's everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can give you love,
uptown, Dad, you lived right across, like right there where the uptown was. With it, remember y'all used to tell me about the lady who used to cook for people. Paid LaBelle talked about the lady who cooked for them in the back. Uncle Wayne used to be running
Carlisle Street. Yeah, it was right across on the back of the uptown, the Carlisle Street. the lady used to cook for Smokey Robinson and all them. And they would come out the back and we would stand around them and talk to them and everything. Stevie Wonder, all of them. Smokey Robinson would come in the back to go over to the ladies' house. We'd be back there talking to them. And we would go to a show, man. And see Patti LaBelle, we'd see Diana Ross, we see Smokey Robinson, we see The Temptations, we see
Michael Jackson,
Stevie Wonder, 5 of them in one show, and we would pay $1.50. They had a 50 for people who couldn't afford any more. They would have a 50-cent show. Them entertainers would entertain for 50 cents.
Hold on, Dad, wait a minute. Bike riders is nice in Philly again, so it's bike riders. Go ahead, now I can hear you better.
Yeah. And and they had this Smokey Robinson and them would get their hair done because they used to wear conks back then.
Now, before you continue, didn't you try to do something like that? See, my dad and I hear the same. You can't just lay this down.
I tried. Me and Dennis, Uncle Dennis used to conk each other's hair.
Uncle Dennis tried to too?
Get straight. They talk about some African hair won't straighten.
This right here, you gotta leave. When I had to put perms in my, when I put perms in my hair, it say put it in for 40, no more than 45 minutes. I could leave it in for 2 hours and I still gotta get a touch up.
Look, I used to put that stuff in my head and it would burn me so bad trying to get my hair straight that I would have sores in my head.
Same here.
Still be nappy.
When my grandma used to say the cops on the beat, she could see the cops on the beat.
Look, it's just that some African-American hair will not straight.
Yeah.
Yeah, what kind of chemical you put in? That was my hair, but Dennis' hair was straightened. The shop where they used to get their hair conk and everything, I ended up owning that barbershop. Me and John Robinson had that barbershop.
On Broad
Street.
Okay, yeah, I remember.
Yeah, that's the shop right next to the Uptown.
Yep. What you call them used to have there over there in the projects. Who had a hair store? Used to do hair. Jerry and I forget the name. The Robinsons on Mervine Street. One of them had a shop over there. Linda.
Linda Robinson?
Is it Linda? Yeah. She was younger, but yeah, she had one right next to the barbershop. It was a hair salon.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah.
So more about Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. You know.
Well, Harold Melvin and Blue Notes. I knew that some of them I grew up with Lloyd. The other guy, me and Roscoe grew up with him. We used to fight with that guy and one of the Blue Notes when we was little kids. Fun with him though. Otto, we called him Otto. We used to have with Otto, but Otto kicked both our butts. So that's what Otto too much. Otto was a good dude, man. Remember I had the Blue Notes come to the Sarah.
It's like a bar block. Oh, Sarah, yeah.
Yeah, when Otto was singing with him then, when I had Lloyd and all them come up there and sing. Because they I asked Lord, I said, Lord, we having a festival thing. Because he said, well, how you see, I come up there, Fig. So they got all them guys up there and sung. And it was real nice. I knew him, McFadden and Whitehead. I knew because the Whiteheads they lived right across from the barbershop where I started. And John Whitehead went to school with Jeanette. And the other Whitehead, the girl, she went to school with me, not Ava, but Adrian. And then the rest of them just knew them from the neighborhood. Who else do I know?
You did mention Brenda and the Tabulations.
Brenda and the Tabulations. Who else? Well, Jamal Adine, he's a jazz musician now.
He's all over the world. I'm so happy for him. He's
Jamal Adine, I'm proud as like heck of him. I remember we used to play jazz. The reason he'll tell you He'll tell you himself, he got into jazz because of being us and our crew.
Yeah, he told me. I met him.
He listened
years
to
ago.
back then was jazz and stuff, you know.
I met him at a club years ago, and we ended up finding out, you know, you like, where you from? From North Philly, what part? And then he was like, oh, I know your dad. Your dad was like one of my old heads.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Jamal Dean. Who else is? Oh, how I got my barber's license. Tammy Terrell's father helped me get my barber's license because he had a shop in North Philly. That, you know, so
nice.
Tammy Terrell's father.
Did y'all ever see any fights?
I remember back in the day, when they was breaking up the gangs, Sidney Poitier came in our neighborhood and did a film called The Lost Man. But he employed a lot of guys from Oxford Street. That was a gang, another gang. But Roscoe, your Uncle Roscoe, his mother was in that movie.
I was about to say, not Miss Bernice was in the gang, because I was about to say, I can see it. But no.
Miss Bernice wasn't from the gang. But
oh, nice.
She was in, a lot of people from the neighborhood was in that movie.
Nice. And what's the name of the movie again?
The Lost Man.
The Lost Man. Okay.
Yeah, you could look that up.
Yeah.
I'm
gonna look it up and see Miss Bernice in the movie.
Yeah.
With her pretty, so gorgeous. So.
Oh, she Miss Bernice was fine woman.
Did you go and see any fights? Because Joe Frazier, you know, is from Philadelphia.
I actually never seen Joe Frazier.
Dad, you used to give massages to fighters. I forgot about that. My dad's a masseuse. Yeah. My dad does everything. He's a barber, masseuse. But I mean, you did.
I used to cut Joe Frazier's son's hair.
Yeah.
At the barbershop.
And they all look alike.
If Ivan Iverson, I was his massage therapist because he's a fighter out of Philly.
That's what it was. I remember.
Yeah, Ivan Mighty Mouse Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
I hooked up with him because his training was from Poplar Street, but I hooked up with him when I wouldn't have been in Franklin High School. Oh, you remember Odell?
Oh, Mr. Odell.
Yeah, that was Ivan Robinson's trainer. And that's how I hooked up with that, you know. And I used to, Philadelphia is a fighter's town. So,
yeah.
You know.
Did you ever try boxing? Because I know everybody wanted to do.
Well, you had to come
when you came
up, you had to go in the gym.
Yeah.
If you're going to be from a gang, because you had to learn how to box. So when I learned how to box, your little Uncle Rick. Your Uncle Rick was a good boxer.
I could tell he's a good fighter.
He was a good boxer. And you had to come through the gym, you know. We had an annunciation gym, and that was in Diamond Street territory, but guys from Norris used to come there, and we'd go there and box. Because Pop, we used to call him Pop, he would teach us how to fight, you know.
Listen.
But you had to know, when you came from our side of town was known for boxers that knew how to box. Across town, they gang war with us, but they didn't like boxers because we knew how to handle it. You had to, because for sport. Like people we played football. We had a season we played football. We had a season we could just box.
Nice.
We would come out the house boxing. Just hey, box. All right. You know, and if you ain't had nothing else to do, you box, or let's play baseball. It's just like saying let's play baseball or something. So
nice.
Learning how to box, you know, where I come from anyway.
Cool. What else? We talked about the riots. Okay. So there was a dance group or Arthur Hall, right?
Oh yeah. Well,
it's still in existence, but a Jewish woman purchased it and is in New York right now. But talk about that.
It just shows you how we have done so many things that we don't get credit for, because he took us. When I was telling you about the militant days, well, that was during the times that, you know, police was looking for most of us, you know.
Yeah. They
wanted to lock us up. So what most of my crew did, well, that's when I got married. I said, I need me a family. If I get
I'm not going to jail.
Family, I can get out of this life. And Reds, James, and Sweet Pea, and all of them, Mark and all of them, they started dancing, doing African dancing up Arthur Halls, got them off the street. And they start traveling all over the world. That's when, right then, I got the barbershop. And I started cutting the hair while they was dancing. I danced with them some.
And you drummed, and my mom danced with them. And my mom danced.
Your mother danced with them more than I did, and I danced with them some, you know, because we.
And didn't you and my mother go to Haiti? Was it with like intentions to do dance?
We went to Haiti to learn a technique. Lavinia Williams had a studio in Haiti, and we went to a studio to study this dance technique. So that we.
And what year was this when you went to Haiti, Dad? I remember. What year was it when you went to Haiti?
This was back in the. This was the early 80s, I think.
It was before I was born?
Huh?
It was before I was born?
Before you was born.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think when we came back there, I decided I wanted you to be born. I said, we got to have another baby.
See, I was in the spirit. I was like, oh, come on. You got to.
Yeah, well, we went through voodoo. We went to voodoo ceremonies and stuff like that. And
speak about that, Dad. Speak about
being exposed to that kind of stuff. I realized that, you know, some people I've seen stuff. I've seen with my own eyes things that you wouldn't believe when it comes to voodoo. Some people would get taken out by that because they see so much, but it didn't faze me I realized that that's part of our culture, Black people's culture and religion and stuff like that. But to me, it didn't affect me. It had very little to do with me because I wasn't in Vodou. I wasn't to that. So when I saw these things, that was just like anything else. Because I knew, I mean, I used to go on acid trips and stuff.
So you seen some stuff.
I mean, you showed me something strange, and I said, well, there you go. You know, that's just strange, you know, that I learned everything is not for me, for me to know and to understand. I mean, I can witness it, but it's not for me to. But anyway, just tell you part of this part, because I hate to see this be out there like that, but one of the guys grabbed rum off of my table, poured it on his head, and ate the glass. When the whole, and there was other stuff that was fantastic that I saw. When that was over, I told the guy, I said, look, y'all owe me a glass of rum. That's all that meant to me. I wanted my drink.
You said it was cool and all.
So the priest that had this Vodou group, we was talking, and come to find out he was from North Philly. He went over there to teach Vodou to them. So he told me, it's so much stuff in the United States and in Philadelphia. He said,
yeah, it's a very hot spot of energy.
It's a hot spot for stuff, you know. But you know, that's just one of the things I experienced in life. I mean, I spent so many different cultures. I belonged to the Sarasate Society. I experienced the Akan because my cousin Reds and them, when they started dancing, they went to Africa and they joined the Akan.
They joined the Akan.
The Akan, yeah. So different traditions like that, African traditions that I learned, you know, got into and learned, and I learned that they're all the same.
All indigenous people are all indigenous people. We just speak different languages.
The Native Americans.
Not the Native Americans, because you know those the white people now. The indigenous people of Turtle Island.
The indigenous people from here in America are Black.
Yeah.
America is Black, is a Black. They since changed that, but original people from America from here is Black. From Native Americans, they call them whatever they can call you. They could switch it and change it anyway.
Yeah.
but
you can't be indigenous to a land if you're not Black.
Right. And you can go to Israel, and in Israel,
Well, that ain't, you know, that just
Israel are Black. You go to China, indigenous people.
You were in China too, Dad, weren't you?
Yeah, I was in China. I went to China. Like Nina said, I studied, I was a massage therapist. So I wanted to go to the source of where massage therapy began. And I studied a technique called Tweet Law. Studied that, and I brought that back with me. And I experienced a whole lot in China. China was a beautiful country too. Oh, I'd love to go back to China again someday.
Yeah, and I speak Chinese, and I'm going. You know, I speak Chinese. I'm going.
I tell you what. One of the things I do want to say this: when I went into the temples, we visited the temples in China. I forget what temple it was I went in, but they had statues of the Buddha. These tall statues were so tall. They like skyscrapers. They're so tall. But the first Buddha that was in that temple was pure Black. And as the dynasties changed, as time went on, the Buddhas got lighter and lighter and lighter in complexion.
Just like they do here.
With my own eyes. So, you know.
Yeah, and that's all we have to do, people, is look at with our own eyes. That's it.
Yeah, look at it, look at life, forget. I wouldn't say forget what you learned. But some people need to forget what they learned. But people need to retain what you learned, but look at things from your own eyes. Things as if knowing that this world was made for you.
Yes.
Somebody else, and for us to have to do this and have to do that so that we could be accepted. Accept yourself. You know, if you can accept yourself, everybody will accept you.
That's something you taught me, Dad.
I don't care where you go.
You taught me when I was younger, you would always tell me, no matter what you told me or what I learned, I have to investigate for myself, because I can't go by what you told me, and you can't go by what anybody tells you. You got to find out for yourself so you can know. You shouldn't go around believing something. You should go knowing. So I appreciate that.
And they thought you believe this or believe. Belief, it's okay to believe something because that's good, but you want to believe that, and you want to stay with that thought until you know. You want to know.
Because everything can be proven.
Everything. But it may not necessarily have to be proven in this form.
No.
But it can be proven. It can be proven tangibly. I mean, because cells and all of that.
Science.
It could be
common
proven
sense.
through science.
And common sense.
And if we use more common sense, that in itself alone might change things so much for the better for this world. Common sense. And the other thing I'd like to say, that we probably going to wrap this up, that I want to say this, that we make things that are so simple, so complicated. One of the things I learned in my life, that things are not complicated. They're very simple. And we believe that everything has to be complicated before it's real or it's true, or before we accept it. We spend a lot of time on nothing. Life is so simple. It's A, B, C, and D.
Yeah, 1 + 1 is 2, always.
1 + 1 is 2, you can count on. And everything beyond that goes back to that. So if you know that, you know everything.
It's very simple, yeah.
And really rely on what you know. If you accept yourself, you realize you know more than you even know you know.
Yeah. Trust yourself before you trust someone else.
Trust what you know. That's right. Trust yourself before you trust what somebody else is about or says. Trust who you. God made you, you.
You see how I got to be so brilliant?
Well.
He said, well. All right, we're gonna do one more question, Dad, because
Okay.
I had you in here for so long. And then we want to try to wrap up for some things. And of course, you're always welcome wherever I am to come back and talk some more.
You ain't gotta say that. I'm there.
Like, you be knocking on my door.
That's right. I might be knocking on your door when you come off this thingy. I might have found out how your Uncle Greg get from one place to the other in no time.
You cannot tell me we are not perfect, because my uncle can walk. He can walk from New Jersey to Philadelphia in 15 minutes. He get there before you get there.
We have left places in Jersey. Left Greg. Greg walked, and Greg get there before we did.
With my own eyes, this is a fact. Sitting on somebody's steps,
waiting for it. Talking about what took y'all so long.
And he walked.
So
or flew.
He might have taught me that secret.
Or teleported.
He teleported or something. He might have taught me that secret. And I might be sitting at your door when you like now. When you watch what you say.
I hope that's the only secret he taught you.
Well, hey, that's my brother. I love my brother.
My uncle, I love him. I'm gonna have him on here. He'll love that. My uncle is writing a book. He wrote some excerpts. I love my uncle. I might have him on here.
Yeah, you might too.
I'll teach him how to use a computer. Then we get him on here.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna give you a card. Let me know if you can see it.
Come closer. So right there. Stop.
Okay. Don't say it. Just hold on to it. You got it?
Wait a minute. Little close. Wait a minute. Hold. Stop right there. Okay, I got it. I got it.
All right, let me pick one for you. I do it. Cool. Okay. You go first.
Your card said I had difficulties in my childhood.
Okay, I had difficulties in my childhood. I never really wanted to be here, people.
You never wanted to what?
I never really wanted to be here. I did because evidently I said I wanted to be here, but when I got here, I said, what?
Yeah, well, I remember when you was a baby, when you first came out, and you looked around and said, ah, and like you panicked, like I'm back here again.
And that's how I've always felt.
Yeah.
And my cousin mentioned to me, my Sheeta mentioned to me, when we were like 6 or 7 and we were looking, staying up till the sun came up. And she asked, where did I want to be? And I told her, not here. I said, I'm waiting for them to come get me. And that has always been, I'm learning. And I'm feeling so much more, I'm still on the fence, like, who put this planet? Well, back with this.
I'm gonna tell you like this. You better keep loving your daddy and treating him right, or so you're coming back here again.
I know that's the reason why I have to. I'm gonna love you. I 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 love you. You hear that? Y'all hear that?
You may not have to come back here no more. You know.
But that was one of my difficulties when I was younger, because I always felt out of place. I never felt like I had someone that I could actually, my Nana was someone I could actually come to, and you, Dad.
Somebody that understood,
understood me. And you were a really big help with that. Like, that didn't make me feel alone. But I felt alone most of my childhood because I didn't have anyone to relate to. And then I always was pushed into being the leader, whether even with my siblings. And I'm the baby, being the leader and having to take charge and having to watch out for people and having to make decisions as a child with adults and older people. And I didn't have a playmate, I would say, of my age for me to be able to bounce back and forth with. I was always alone in those things. And pretty much sometimes very much alone in my adulthood as well. But I was appreciative of having my grandmother, my Nana, sitting under her, a lot of my elders, and my godmother, Aunt Curly, Cousin Lil, all those. And then my dad, you, Daddy, were a major part of my life that made me be able to say, all right, if I'm going to be here, at least I got him. So my dad's my best friend. So that was my difficulty.
I like to say this to you about that. We are all alone in this life. But what we cherish, what we need to learn to cherish is the people that we have to share certain things with.
Yeah.
You could share parts of your life with other people when other people share with you. But we all in this world alone.
Yeah.
You know, and it's okay.
I'm learning that.
You know, this is what we supposed to be alone. Part of us alone so that we know to learn to share and know what how good it feels to share with each other.
Yeah.
Good thing.
And I'm glad I had you and, like I said, the people, my elders, because it always felt that I was sharing and never getting poured back into, and not learning and growing and having something push me forward. And you gave me books. Like, I read the ISIS paper by the time I was like 7 or 8. Like, I had, like, you gave me resources to help me grow. And also you took me places and put me in positions to feed me. And that's what I'm very appreciative of that.
Yeah. Well,
so, the question is, define what being Black, melanated, indigenous, original mean to you. Whatever word you want to choose. Before you go there, because of your age and the eras that you've been, what did you define yourself as, or what were y'all defined as? Were y'all Negro or colored, or what was it?
That, you know, it's weird.
Y'all weren't Black, right?
Back then, when it was Negro, then it was Negro, colored, then Black. But I never
African American
did any of that. I never really applied any of that to myself.
Yeah.
It was something that somebody told me I was. You know, I mean, I'm a human being.
Yes.
I'm a human being.
Yes.
So I define myself as a human being. And original, I believe that because and I feel it within my own being that I have so much to give being original. I have so much that is original to give that only I could give. Other people can only give what they have. What I have to give, only I could give that.
Yeah.
You know, so that's me being original and being an original human being.
Yeah.
Being the original human being.
Yeah.
You know, that's being melanated and all that. I mean, for the melanin, but thank God for me understanding what melanin is. People need to research what melanin is, and it's more than what you think it is.
It's more than just a color.
It's more than just a color. And it's way, 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 way. It's beyond your wildest dreams what melanin really, really is. And if you're a melanated person, it behooves you to find out what that is. So the more you find out what that is, the more you find out who you are.
Yes.
You know, so that's all I can give you with that, you know.
All right. Well, Dad, we're gonna wrap this up. I am so glad that I got to have you in here. And Sweet Pea, I told you, Sweet Pea, you know, Booker T and them family saw it, and she was like, "Tell Mr. Fig I said hi."
Sweet Pea,
yeah. So this is Untold Stories with my daddy, my best friend, my papa.
All right.
I
knew we was gonna do this one day.
Would you say?
I say I knew we were going to do this one day.
Yeah, you gotta come back. I'm gonna have to. Well, I'm gonna have to have you come back and maybe have some more of my uncles come on here. Y'all can talk, and I just sit back and listen to y'all tell stories.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah, I would love to facilitate.
Because everybody have because they experience the same thing, but they see it from a different perspective, and it's interesting to do that. You know, because say Red's experience, we experienced the same thing, but he experienced it in his own way. You
Well,
know?
go ahead and call my cousin, tell my uncles that y'all want to have a conversation. I'll facilitate it and just let y'all talk.
That would be great. That would be the thing, yeah. And I also want to say how proud of you that I am. I'm so proud of you for this. I'm solid proud of you for living your truth.
Oh.
You live what Naya feel is true. And you're a living example that you could be yourself and live in this world and be happy and joyful. And you can spread joy. You know, and make sure you treat your daddy right, because if you don't, you're coming back.
Listen, y'all hear me?
Coming back.
I love him. Y'all hear me?
All right.
All right, Daddy. Signing
okay,
off.
baby.
This is Untold Stories with another man telling his untold story and sharing it with the world. And we out.
We out.
I am living, I'm living to the Father. I will pray.